Australia is the sixth largest country on Earth, yet this satellite map reveals a striking geographic anomaly. 95% of its massive landmass is entirely devoid of human life, with bright data points lighting up only the extreme coastal edges. The sheer scale of this dark space is difficult to visualize. The interior is roughly twice the size of India, yet it contains almost no permanent residents. Nearly the entire population of 26 million people is concentrated in just 5 coastal cities, clustered tightly on the country's outer rim. Moving away from these borders and traveling inward causes the statistical chances of human survival to drop toward zero. This demographic void is maintained by 2 absolute forces: a century of frontier violence and a geographic trap that makes the interior nearly uninhabitable. To understand why Australia remains 95% empty, we have to look beneath the soil at a hidden history of eradication and the unique science of a landscape that actively rejects human expansion. Before European arrival, this continent was sustainably inhabited. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples lived across the varied environments, hunting and gathering without the use of physical borders or permanent fences. This 1788 etching captures the arrival of the British at Botany Bay. Note the massive sailing ships looming in the harbor, while a lone indigenous figure sits in a small canoe in the foreground. Because the British saw no fences or fixed structures, they declared the continent terra nullius, land belonging to no one. The British used the land to establish a massive open-air penal colony, transporting thousands of criminals across the ocean to perform forced labor. This arrival triggered a rapid collapse of the native population. The introduction of European diseases like smallpox and measles, to which the local population had zero immunity, wiped out half the indigenous people in the Sydney region in just 1 year. Colonizers then began physical theft, building fences to violently cut indigenous groups off from their own fresh water sources and traditional hunting grounds. By 1795, the native population began fighting back against the systemic abuse and the loss of their land, sparking a brutal, century-long frontier war. This data visualization tracks the statistical toll of that 100-year conflict. By the year 1900, the native population had plummeted from over 700,000 down to a mere 30,000. In just over a century, the deliberate eradication of 90% of the continent's native inhabitants helped manufacture the vast emptiness seen on modern maps. In 1901, the new federal government passed the Immigration Restriction Act. This White Australia policy created a legal framework specifically designed to ban non-white immigrants. By strictly controlling who could enter the country, the government ensured total white British control over the landmass while actively suppressing potential population growth. Massive casualty rates in the World Wars further drained the continent of its inhabitants. During World War I, 1 out of every 5 Australian men was sent to fight in Europe, and 40% never returned home. This legacy remains visible in the modern demographic reality. Today, native Aboriginals make up only 3.8% of the total population. Discriminatory immigration laws and high wartime casualties permanently stunted the continent's population density, keeping the interior desolate long after the frontier wars ended. Human history explains how the continent was emptied, but physical geography explains why it stays that way. Even with modern technology, the landscape of the interior remains actively hostile to human life. This topographical map divides the country into 3 major zones. The Western Plateau, highlighted here in deep red, covers 2/3 of the continent. This plateau is a desert because of the freezing Antarctic Ocean to the south. Cold water does not evaporate easily, which prevents the formation of rain clouds. Without moisture, Notice how these clouds are blocked and pooling against the green mountain peaks, trapping all available moisture on the coast and preventing it from ever reaching the interior. Living in this habitable zone requires enduring extreme weather. These trapped systems cause devastating recurring floods and subject coastal cities to 2 or 3 major cyclones every single year. Australia functions as a geographical trap. The interior poisons those who try to settle it, while the only livable edges are battered by unrelenting storms. The empty space on the Australian map is the direct result of a century of human extermination colliding with the world's most unyielding geography. The 5 glittering coastal cities function as desperate footholds of human survival, clinging to the only slivers of land that provide enough water for millions to exist. Behind those cities lies the vast, silent outback, a landscape that remains largely unchanged since the civilization that once inhabited it was lost. Australia's pitch-black centre remains a silent indicator of a lost population and a landscape that, despite modern technology, remains impossible to inhabit.